We as women tend to question, I should be doing that, or why I should be doing that. What needs to change for us women to step forward with more confidence?
You can create your own confidence. It can come from a lot of different places. And one of them is allowing risky things to happen. If you're offered an opportunity, assume that you've already proven yourself. Otherwise, maybe you wouldn't have gotten it. Somebody's giving you a chance. If you're 25 years old, 35 years old, 50 years old, you're receiving this opportunity for a very good reason. So you should accept it. Too many women question themselves when in fact you should take it naturally. I don't particularly think it's useful to compare to what men do and what women do, but just accept this is a great opportunity. Let me take it.
So please grab a cup of coffee or tea, get comfortable, and enjoy this episode. Welcome to the Brilliantly Branded podcast.
As part of today's conversations, we will be talking about the acronym WIN, W-I-N. But what does it really mean to win? WIN stands for what's important now. That is a simple question that can completely change how we make decisions in life, how we show up, and how we lead. So this conversation is for every woman who has ever questioned if she was ready, qualified, or even allowed to step into leadership. So today we will talking about clarity, the confidence, the values, and why asking to yourself what is important now can really shift everything. So my guest has spent more than 25 years in leadership roles across finances and international boardrooms and in male-dominated industry as well. So she has often been the only woman in the room, not to prove anything, of course, but simply because she was doing what are necessary to do. So today she's worked as an independent director, a mentor. She's inspiring younger generations to think critically and to build this better world. So Sharon, welcome to the Brilliantly Branded podcast. And before we go deeper, I would love to start by letting you introduce yourself in your own words.
Thank you for having me, Maria. It's a pleasure to be here. I've had quite a bit of experience in corporate finance, in trading rooms, private wealth management, private clients, and corporate finance, as I said, sitting on boards of directors of international companies quoted on New York Stock Exchange and other stock exchanges throughout the world. So here we are today.
Here we are today, starting with this important acronym that I mentioned at the beginning, that is what's important now. And that made me think when we had this conversation, preparing our episode, that made me think in asking you, why is this question so powerful and how had it shaped your leadership and your life?
Well, to win is a very important goal to set. I think about it that if you have a ship and you are sailing across the ocean, not just on a lake, but across the ocean, because that's what life is. We don't know what is out there. We know we're in life. We're on the water, but we have to have a goal. So if we're sailing from Lisbon to New York, we have to have a goal. If not, we will end up maybe like Christopher Columbus, somewhere completely different. It might be fantastic, but you might never get there. You might sink. So I think winning is really important, especially for women, because without having this goal of I would like to win, not must, but I would like to win, we tend to get lost in the small things, the little wave or the big wave that might throw us under. We need to have that focus on winning.
Amazing. It's not just to say, I want to win, but having actually the guidance or having the map to explore that navigation as you give this beautiful metaphor. And
Exactly.
I think values as well are important to bring in the moment that you are going to start navigating that, and having those values and thinking in this long-term thinking, not just momentarily, but long-term thinking. How do you think that women begin to identify with their own values and how they can use them as a compass for those decisions?
Well, we should all have a set of values that are firmly fixed before we even start a career. And this is set early on when we decide who we would like to be. Who we'd like to be if we were in the front page of a newspaper. Would we like to have our faults printed there? Or would we like to be seen as a person who's trying their best and doing their best? Whatever that character is that you would like to be, because this word of authenticity is thrown around a lot, but you cannot be authentic if you don't have values, at least good values. There's this thing about values and morals shouldn't be confused. You can have morals and still be very unkind to your coworkers. So values play a really important role in order to win. People will respect you and you will receive opportunities because you're present and you're also helping, which is a form of preparing yourself for a leadership role.
Yeah, well, values is, of course, a very, very wide word that are involving many things around. And one of my questions will be, how do you think we can start by understand what are our values? Because sometimes that can be confused in the environment that we are living, especially if we are in a toxic environment that is not really help us to put it clarity in our values. So how will you advise someone to realize what their values are and how to make their values work?
It's a good point, as you said there. Very good question. Values are the qualities and the type of decisions we make. We have lower quality values when we decide to commit fraud. That's an example of lower values. Your values decide of who your character is. Are you a kind person? Are you a dominating person? Are you a bully? Are you weak-kneed when important decisions come? If it's a black swan event at your company, which means high crisis moment where nothing is expected, do you panic and run away from your ship? Do you jump ship? So it's who you are, how you act, and it should flow all the time. You can see that, for instance, in some ancient scripts. Ancient Rome had this concept of values, of how to be a good person. Aristotle was very famous for that very reason. He wanted all his students to understand that you have to be a good person in order to be in the Senate in his country. And in every country that he sent his students or they went to, they kept this in mind. Bring something of use and goodness. Yes, some people might say, why would you want to be good? But being bad doesn't mean that you're going to be successful in the long term.
Yeah.
If that makes sense.
Well, that makes a lot of sense, and I think that we open a can of worms in the sense that it's a very deep topic, and connecting that with a little bit part of your story, how you have been managing yourself in a male-dominated industry, and I wanted to talk a bit this elephant in the room that sometimes is very difficult to tackle in the sense you have been observed how men normally they assume that they deserve their place, for example, while at the same time women tend to question it. We as women tend to question it. Really, I should be doing that, or why I should be doing that. But why do you think this happened, and what needs to change in the world for us women to step forward with more confidence?
Well, confidence, I think you can create your own confidence. It can come from a lot of different places. And one of them is allowing risky things to happen, such as being open to good experiences. I know everything that somebody says can be turned in another way, but I truly mean this in a good way, that if you're offered an opportunity, assume that you've already proven yourself. Otherwise, maybe you wouldn't have gotten it. Somebody's giving you a chance. If you're 25 years old, 35 years old, 50 years old, you're receiving this opportunity for a very good reason. So you should accept it. Too many women question themselves when in fact you should take it naturally. I don't particularly think it's useful to compare to what men do and what women do, but just accept this is a great opportunity. Let me take it.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think that already gives you confidence because you don't second guess yourself.
Confidence is very important, starting by, of course, your own self-confidence. And I'm curious to know what helped you build your confidence in all these environments across your professional lives to be positioned as the leader that you are.
Well, it probably came from that attitude of as we'd call it, a can-do attitude. I never really second-guessed myself. I did grow up in a more or less masculine world with a lot of brothers, which I think is very formative. Then in university, usually had in a class of whatever it was, there were usually only 30% women in the class, which is very interesting. And I did take classes that most women were not interested in studying, such as heavy math or some legal topics that were not and still are not very interested by women because it's difficult and you cannot maybe see the purpose. But I saw all of this as something that I'm interested in and something that I would like to succeed at, because I would like to, maybe in the long run, I didn't use the word win, but yes, I wanted to succeed afterwards and win in my career. So I think that gave a lot of confidence that I can do this. You know, I can get 100% if I'd like to. I can get 90% if I'd like to, as an example for other women. So that's a confidence builder, is just trusting yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, that is very important. And connecting this a little bit with this big topic of the acronym, that is what is important now, how we can bring that to really give the context of how we can use that to start to building our path in the leadership world.
Well, it's a concept I like to use when I teach ethics in finance that is perhaps difficult to understand as a concept, but it comes back to deciding who you'd like to be, to having your character. Is what's important now is partially to be seen that what I would like to achieve in 30 years, what am I doing now about it? So am I taking the opportunities as they come along, or am I finding reasons that keep me comfortable? Something to keep in mind, and I think it actually could be in almost any situation, is if it makes me uncomfortable in a good way, if it makes me uncomfortable, it's a point of growth. How do I react to this? And this will take me along on my path because I already know where I want to go.
It's a very difficult question to do to yourself. Why that make me feel uncomfortable? And when you do that question to yourself, think is all my demons start to arrive in that moment, because it's how that question really make you stop and thinking why that is making me feel uncomfortable. And that is, of course, building a new path and building a new things that you need to adjust and adapt.
Exactly.
And then it's across the years and all the experience and all the things that you have been seeing that build those role models. I have been always very proud to bring people that end up being these role models, because I have been always believing in the power of being inspired by someone else. So role models visibility matter deeply for us, especially women today. So my question is, who inspired you along this journey, and how do you see your role now inspiring this younger generation that you are working with?
Well, role models, I had quite a few without thinking of it. I grew up perhaps especially, I don't know, I found many teachers during my school life to be very motivating because they're passionate about their job. I found my parents to be very motivating. They were my role models in different ways. My father always encouraged me, without saying too much, that effort will take you far, and whatever's in your mind, no one can take from you. So educate yourself, which makes every child, at least in my family, want to do their best. It was never spoken about what you cannot do. And I've often said this, it's really important what we put in young people's mind of equality thinking is use the positive. Dale Carnegie has a wonderful saying about that you should always encourage someone at least 1 or 2 times, even if you see they're having it difficult, because that alone will build confidence. And suddenly you will find out that this person that seemed incapable is capable. So these type of encounters I've had in life have given me this outlook of everyone is a possible hero. What can they teach me?
That is
And of course, if I
inspirational.
come down to one thing, I don't want to neglect her, although she's not going to be aware of this, is I love historical figures, and Joan of Arc always motivated me that she was
Yeah,
a doer.
I love that. Yeah. Juana de Arco in Spanish. And yeah, it's something remarkable. And you mentioned something very interesting, that is education. And education is the seed for a better world. And I am
Absolutely.
saying that, and I wanted to attach that to another question. And that question is related with a project that I am already working on. But if you could define in only one word what will be the seed for a better world, what word that will be?
Well, if you believe it or not, I think education,
I love that.
quality education.
Yeah, I love that, and this is I agree, because is key for everything, and supporting education is part of this project that I have mentioned. And
100%.
just to close, Sharon, this conversation, and you have been already deliver a lot of value, just showing us part of your story, part of your experience. But any woman, and I wanted to center that in women in general, because I have been realizing how you have been positioned yourself, even in environments where you have been the only woman, as you will say, it was just a small percentage of women in the moment that you was probably in the past. Now this is more level up. But anyways, any woman listening today that probably is asking to herself, what is important now? What would you hope her answer will be?
If I were to ask a woman very good question. I'll have to take a second to think about it. Well, to be honest with you, I think not much has changed. I did recently a master's, and I found exactly the same situation. So I think what is important for a woman now is believe in yourself. Make sure your foundation is solid so that it is based on a solid background. Whatever your job is, whatever you're working, educate yourself and make sure the foundation is solid and be open to learn.
That is a strong message, Sharon, and I have to say thank you, because all the conversation that we have had now is going to give a lot of value to our listeners. So I'm very happy to having you as a guest in the Brilliantly Branded podcast, and how this is building in empowerment, especially for women. So thank you very much.
Having me, Maria.
Thank you, Sharon, for being here. A pleasure.
Thanks.
I'm grateful by having you as a listener on this episode. I am in the mission of empowering thousands of women around the globe, and I need your support for that. Help me to spread the voice by sharing this episode and subscribe to our social media channels. And remember, if you want to listen to exceptional stories and have someone that inspires you, please get in touch with me, because I would love to have them as a guest to learn from their experience and share their story with you next time. So until the next episode, ciao, ciao.